Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us here for episode 22 of Cage Side Convos. I am Rick.
And this is Quince.
As always, we're coming to you live from American Top Team here in Watertown on this balmy New Year's Eve.
Yeah, no snow. No snow.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, man.
I don't mind it.
Reminds me of being back home in Virginia, where it's just never really gets below freezing, which is pretty exciting.
Right.
So being that it's New Year's Eve, this time of year always brings about a lot of New Year's resolutions. A lot of people that use this as a mark on the calendar to start making some changes and stuff in their lives. Figured it'd be a pretty good time to talk a little bit about what Quince and I both discuss a lot behind the scenes, and we touch on a lot in almost every conversation, at least in some facet. But really focus today on discipline, kind of what it means to be disciplined. The benefits of it, and kind of how to develop like an overall disciplined lifestyle, and one of the things we always try to do is define the topic that we're talking about, right? So for me, the way I like to define discipline is it's the promise you make to yourself to be better.
Sure.
The promise you make to yourself to go through with the plans that you made when you were motivated, right? So, and the common pattern that you see is, and I've done it myself, you get all pumped up about something, you think, okay, I want to make these changes in my life, I'm sick of living how I'm living, and you get all pumped up and say, okay, I'm going to do these 10 different things, and this is going to change who I am as a person. I want it. You start, first day, you're all motivated about it, you're excited. Second day, you're kind of excited. Third day, that motivation starts to wane.
Right.
Fourth day, the motivation's gone.
You start finding other distractions, other things to do, excuses. They start seeping in. They start
things
seeping
you can
in.
get excited about, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah, and that's definitely a struggle. I guess how I define discipline is being able to make good long-term decisions by overcoming short-term temptations.
Okay.
So you've always got certain goals in mind, and certain backing reasons behind those goals,
right?
Because those are the things that kind of get you to focus in and focus on, and be more consistent.
Sure.
Everybody wants maybe what they want or what the next person has, but if you don't have that true conviction in what it is you're setting goals toward, it's going to be hard to become disciplined,
Right.
In obtaining that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the short-term temptations, right? Or roadblocks or reasons or excuses,
Sure.
and these, I kind of lump a lot of things into the excuses column. And a lot of them, it's legitimate. Sometimes, life gets in the way, you get busy and things come up, and especially if, you tell yourself, all right, New Year, I'm going to go to the gym every single day, for an hour. And one of the biggest things you run into when you're training is you get sore, you get tired,
Right.
Your nutrition sucks, your water intake sucks. There's all these things that make it hard to be consistent, right?
Yeah.
Which is the word that you used. And a lot of these things, consistency, you talked a little bit about like willpower and stuff like that. All these things amount to discipline, right?
Yeah.
And the short-term obstacles, a lot of times, or short-term temptations, are things that we create for ourselves. We manifest reasons not to, because it's hard to be disciplined, or because we're not excited about it. When we're motivated and we're very excited about what's going on, there's nothing else in the world that's gonna matter, right?
Right.
And the discipline is being able to find what you wanted in that motivation and prioritize that.
Sure. Because
Mm-hmm.
that motivation is going to wane back and forth, given all of those variables and more that you mentioned, as far as just fatigue, soreness, other things kind of popping up in life that you might have to focus on.
Sure.
So certainly on your journey to your goals, to a goal, there's always that learning curve that unless you've been down that road, you can't really foresee.
Right.
So, you come into something that you don't foresee, you come into that roadblock, and then, bam, that dissipates your motivation right there.
Yeah.
So unless you can regather yourself, refocus on whatever that conviction is, and get back into your routine of discipline, you know, it's going to be hard to meet that goal time and time again.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I've experienced pretty consistently in struggling to develop a disciplined kind of mindset is I'll get home at night, right, and I'll be reflecting on the day, and at nighttime it's really easy to say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to do this, I want to make these changes. Today I didn't read as much as I wanted to, so tomorrow I'm going to read, or I didn't train as much as I wanted to today, I'm going to train more tomorrow, or I'll develop long-term training plans in my mind, but I'll do it at nighttime a lot. And a lot of my plans dictate waking up earlier, hitting the snooze alarm less times, right? So at nighttime I'm motivated, I'm excited to make these changes, and in the morning when I wake up, the very first thing I do is hit the snooze alarm and say, I'm not feeling it today. I'm tired, I'm sore, I have a long day ahead of me. You know, we've got a 12-hour day where, you know, I'm responsible for this and this and that, and this is going on, and I build that excuse for myself, you know. And I think that's very common, you know. And I know you like to get up in the morning, and you know usually run, and you have kind of a set morning routine and stuff,
right?
Which is awesome, you know. And I look at that a lot, and I try to examine that every time we talk about it and see kind of what I can personally take away from that and how I can replicate it. And what I found is that for me, especially with the nature of my schedule, a lot of times I'm up at 7. Like this morning, I was at the gym at 7, and the last class ends at 9:30 tonight. You know, and then it's New Year's Eve, so I know I'm going to go to a party and stuff. So in my mind, that's a long day. So it's hard for me to say, all right, well, I'm going to get up at 5 and I'm going to do the stuff Quince does. Right. But what I do take from that is finding that consistency. You know, so I know, okay, from 7 to 8. This is my schedule, this is what I'm doing. Then from 8 to 9, I have free time. So that time right there, I'm gonna do like my Quince stuff. I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna hit my routine. I'm gonna do my little workout. I'm gonna sit down and write for a little bit. I'm gonna find that, and use that time to kind of meditate and breathe a little bit. And what's cool, since I've started shifting my focus to, okay, I know I'm not gonna do it when I first wake up. But that doesn't mean that I can't find the time during the day to recreate that. Sure. You know, and take that moment for myself. So yeah, I'm basically just taking what you do, and because I see the results of it, and luckily I'm exposed to enough that I understand the process of it, and that I can kind of replicate it in my own way. And now I'm starting to feel the success from it, and feel the discipline, and feel the routine set in. That's awesome. Yeah, and so it doesn't. I think we look at other people and see what they do, or we see the results of what they do. Right. And we think, I want that. And then if I want the exact same results as you, I have to do the exact same things. And I'm not going to do the exact same things. Right. You know. Right.
Certainly, what I do now, and why I've started, the certain patterns that I have are just due to that self-reflection. Is understanding my own, personal weaknesses and strengths, as well as what sort of time I have, based around work or, the band and music, or things like that. So like, I get up early in the morning because that's my time. Yeah, sure. If my job, said otherwise, it'd probably be late at night like you. Right, sure. But, it was just being honest with myself, like I said, about the strengths and weaknesses. But all of these patterns, they were all from, because I knew I needed to create easy little habits. Right. Start off with easy habits to kind of like get myself on the right track. Yeah. Kind of moderate those things. Yeah. Whether it's, how much I'm on my phone, or, watch shows, or go to the bars, or just bullshit in general. Just moderate the little things that I could. Diet. Yeah. And, it has to do with setting alarms. And not hitting the snooze, or knowing that you're going to hit the snooze, so you set a couple alarms until you can kind of wean that back a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. But I find that these patterns all in the morning, waking up, little meditation, then writing for a little bit, and then running, like all of these things help me to break, like to stay out of my own head and listen to all these excuses on, oh man, last night was a late night, tonight's gonna be even later, I've got this and that and that. So before I let myself get into my thoughts, and before I just wake up in my bed and pick up my phone, because that's the deadliest shit in the world to me, and I don't go anywhere. So before I do any of that, I slip right in into this routine that came from discipline and is a practice of discipline. And it helps me kind of, it kind of frees me from myself.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And there are a lot of times where that falters, and you don't do it to maybe to the fullest. But that's gonna happen. I think, as humans, we do have kind of like these chinks in the armor. But when you're honest with yourself, and you can be like, okay, well, that you faltered here because that is a weakness of yours, or this excuse is something that you use as a crutch. Once you can say stuff like that, to yourself, or write it down so you remember it. When you come across those scenarios again, you start remembering, like, oh, you know what? I don't really feel this way. I'm just kind of using this shit so I can stay in bed.
Hold yourself accountable.
Holding yourself accountable is huge. And once you that reoccurs over and over, you're like, oh shit, that's a pattern. That's not a genuine thought. That's a pattern. And that's when you can start breaking it, and that's when you get the progression, out of these routines.
There's there's so many awesome things you just touched on there. Real quick, give a shout out to our boy Alex Slurry there. Happy New Year's to you too, brother, and absolutely, man, hopefully everybody is going to practice a little bit of moderation or a little bit of self-honesty tonight. If you're out there drinking, get a ride. If you're in town, just walk around a little bit, right? Get home safe tonight, guys. Absolutely have fun.
Hey, and great show Saturday, man. Shit was wild. Shit was wild. I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, Quinn said you did all right, Alex, if you're saying
No, he was on fire. He was on fire.
That's awesome, man.
Even Matt Costa came up to me after. He's like, what the he's like, yo, Al's got this. He's like, he's just got this pocket these days. And he's like, man, he's like, I wanted to jump right into it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I said, no, it's mine.
I got dibs. Oh, man. So kind of seamlessly shifting gears as we often do.
My bad.
No, you're good, man. No, that's definitely an exciting weekend for you guys, for sure.
It's awesome.
But I mean, so even like we can even take that example of you guys, over the weekend out chasing lions, being able to perform on such an awesome stage down there in Syracuse with Caustic Method and those guys, and the reason, we can examine that through a lens of discipline, right? The reason that you guys were able to perform on that stage is because everybody in the band, you guys made the agreement that you were going to put in work. And through this constant work and not making excuses to skip band practice and nobody's making shit up to have other things to do. Everybody decided, they agreed to be disciplined and prioritize the band.
Right.
At least, and everybody in their own context, but everybody made that a higher priority on their list. You guys are able to practice at least once a week, right? At least you guys are practicing, right?
Yeah, once a week, guys.
once a week-ish. Okay. But I mean that, through a group discipline, which is very, very difficult to accomplish. But I mean, you guys get to reap the rewards from it, and everybody sees, okay, you guys played in Syracuse, awesome. But there's a lot of shit that goes on behind the scenes.
A lot of stuff that goes on, and it has to do with like where you foresee, where you see yourself playing in the future, where you want to play, the type of shows you want to play in the future, mixed with the type of opportunity that's around. So, in the area, there's a lot of heavy, the heavy metal scene is for real. They get a solid turnout. They have seasoned musicians that are still running the circuit. So, if you really want to get into something like that, you got to kind of shift. If you want these bigger shows, you got to shift your style of music. So, we're a hip hop band, right? And all live instruments. And really, we could do any cover, we can make any type of music, but to be able to fit in with some of these people that are doing it right now, you gotta kind of adapt. So that takes discipline, not to always do the type of shit you want to do. Right. It's doing the type of shit you need to do in order to progress. Because as you further, you can always work on the stuff you love, but you need to progress first. And once you get to those certain levels, you can continue to expand, and introduce people into something new.
Well, and it's kind of understanding, what's work and what's art, and
Right.
how, you know, we kind of play back and forth between the two.
Right.
You know, so you work a little bit. So the work is maybe just grinding out and just doing. We're gonna hit these tracks with this sound to it.
Right.
We're gonna track these guys, and then, you know, our artistic, you know,
Right.
pure love endeavor over here.
Yep.
Maybe they transfer over that, and they start seeing you can expand, you can grow over here. You know,
Yep.
and it's not that you don't love what you're doing. It's not that you don't enjoy it, like the heavier sound and everything, but you work there. You know, that's more
Sure.
work, because the other side may be a little more obscure. You know. Obscure in air quotes for the people on the heavier side of it.
Right.
But as they kind of, you know, you can kind of indoctrinate them to more of your like organic sound
Right,
as well.
just blending it, and
Yeah.
you know, and at first it is, you know, there's the, you know, the artistry of it, and there's the work aspect.
Yeah, sure.
But when you notice both of them kind of help,
Yeah.
you need both of them to get you to that same point.
Right.
The work doesn't necessarily feel like work anymore.
Sure,
You know, it starts to change. You know, because I think you were talking earlier during class. You're like, there are some people that come to class and it might look like they're motivated. They have a smile on their face and they're ready to go, but they're at a point, kind of like an understanding of what just getting there today does,
yeah.
and the reason why they're there and how it's going to help them. They might not actually be motivated to get that work in, but they know what it's going to bring.
Right. So they're disciplined to get through the door, then they're excited.
Discipline to get through the door,
Yeah.
excited to be here.
Sure. And that's, I mean, kind of, you know, looping back around out at more what you were talking about. You were, so you were talking a lot about your habits,
Yeah.
right? And basically, all a habit is something that we've chosen to be disciplined about long term. That's all a habit is, right? Or something that we've neglected being disciplined about,
Right.
So that's how we develop bad habits and things that we don't like. And that's where that honesty with ourselves, you know, okay, well, this isn't just a fleeting feeling. This is my pattern of behavior.
Right.
Translates into this is a bad habit. This is something I want to fix. So a bad habit is lack of discipline. A good habit is enforcing your self-discipline.
Sure.
And one thing, the way I like to view it is being disciplined. Just pick one thing. Pick one thing to be disciplined about, right? Because you didn't just, you didn't just all of a sudden one morning say, okay, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna write, I'm gonna run, I'm gonna do that. You didn't develop these like 5 or 6 crucial things you do in the beginning of the day in one day.
Nope.
It probably took 6, 8, 10 months to really, and you're probably still developing
Constant
your habit,
adapting,
right?
constant adapting.
Right. So for me, and I've talked about this before, probably one of the most pivotal books that I've read thus far. A good friend of mine, Eddie Stevens, let me borrow Make Your Bed. And I don't know why the fuck I always forget the author's name, but he did a big commencement speech. He's a Navy SEAL, retired Navy SEAL. But basically, one of the biggest things in there, the book's called Make Your Bed, and one of the biggest things he talks about is when you get up in the morning, make your bed. And that's, you know, kind of a cliche military thing, is they have to make their bed every single day. But that develops a mindset of productivity for the day.
Right.
So when I first said that, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I can make my bed every day. There's no reason I can't.
Right.
Okay? So I get up, and the first day I did it, I was like, man, this is kind of a pain in the ass. And the second day I did it, I was like, this is kind of a pain in the ass. And the 35th day I did it, I was like, this is kind of a pain in the ass. But all of a sudden one morning I woke up, and I mean, this is probably 2-3 months into the process, and I realized automatically, as soon as I got out of bed, the first thing I did before I did anything else was make my bed. So I forced myself to be disciplined. I forced myself, like there's literally no reason I can't. I'm never in such a hurry that I can't take the 30 seconds it takes to throw the covers back on my bed, you know? So that was my first real focus practice in discipline.
Right.
Like even outside, like I'd done, you know, half a dozen fight camps before that. And there's a lot of discipline that goes into fighting and stuff. And I've been strict on my meals and my alcohol intake and blah, 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 blah. But it was always stuff that I knew there was a finite amount of time. I was just going to do it for 6 weeks, and then I was done, and I didn't have to do it anymore.
Right.
Making my bed is something I've been doing for 2 years now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's automatic.
Right.
Like if I crash on the couch one night, you know, I'm watching TV or whatever, I wake up, as soon as I get up, fold all my blankets, put them back, it's habitual, right?
Right.
And I use that as an example for myself of how to build habits.
Yes.
And I would pick, and that was the only thing I was disciplined about for like 3 months.
Yeah.
Everything else was kind of here and there. But since then, I've been able to, start forcing myself to, not forcing myself, but using that with like meal prep and stuff, okay? Right now, the only thing I'm going to be disciplined about now is my meal prep. So now I'm making my bed and I'm prepping my meals. And whatever the excuses are, every week I prep my meals, right? For at least, so I have, lunch or dinner prepared for the entire week. And then if I, eat out here or there, if I snack here and there and stuff, it's not a big deal. But I make sure I at least have one meal prep for every single day of the week. And now that's becoming habit, right? And sometimes I falter. Some weeks I won't do it, or like these past couple weeks with the holidays, schedule's been crazy, so I don't buy as much food. I don't do things exactly the same. So right now I'm out of that habit because I'm not being disciplined about it. But I have to accept that that's okay. It's okay to falter, right? And being honest with yourself is you're never going to be disciplined 100% of the time.
Right.
And then if you say, okay, well I fucked up, so now hell with it, it's all shot. Right? Then it ruins all the work that you put into it before. You see people do that with like crash dieting and stuff, where they'll say, okay, I'm just gonna go no carb, and 2 weeks later they have a donut and they're like, well, fuck it, I quit.
Right.
And then all the progress they made is gone, instead of understanding and being honest with themselves that discipline wanes and it takes time to build habits.
Yes.
How many times, so like for you, just the example of setting your alarm and not picking up your phone right away. In the development of that habit, how many times did you falter?
Enough to where I had to put my phone across the, across the room, because sometimes
you recognize your habit and you knew how to beat that because you knew what you were going to do, so you dummy proofed it. You made it so you couldn't do that.
Pretty much,
right?
pretty much, and it doesn't mean. I mean, sure, it does mean that I am, that my willpower might be weaker at times, but still finding that loophole and adjusting to that. It's still sometimes your only option.
Right.
And, I like the whole concept. I've certainly heard of, just make your bed before. And really it's kind of like the gateway drug of discipline, or it's the gateway action or thought process, because all it takes is that one, act of consistency that you start to see progression from, or you start to realize it becomes habitual.
Yeah.
And once you see that, oh shit, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Now you can apply that, like you said, with all these other aspects of your life.
Right.
Because I certainly, as far as my morning routine, which probably I think altogether, is about 3 hours or so. I'm including class as well.
Sure.
Wasn't just that's not something that I could just pick up and run with.
Right.
But these are all things that I have wanted just over the years, that I have wanted for my life.
Yeah.
Whether it's just self-awareness, or consistent writing, or physical exercise, mental exercise, get money.
Yeah.
I've taken all of these aspects and all these goals and kind of like sculpted it down into this morning routine where I do a little bit of all of that.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get me jump started into the day.
A little bit of all of that.
A little bit of all of that, but that's after years of doing. Because sometimes all I would do was write. Yeah. Sometimes all I would do was meditate. Yeah. Sometimes I would. So, it's all crafted down. It's all understood. The further where I want to end up, and kind of taking the steps back to see how to get there.
What I love about that so much is the understanding the moderation in it. Because when you hyper focus on one area, which it seems contradictory, I said choose one thing to be disciplined about at a time until it becomes a habit. Right. But now I'm flipping over. I'm saying do moderation. Don't just hyper focus on one thing.
Right.
And what I mean by to explain the contrast between the two is when you're focusing on one thing to be disciplined about, that is the thing. For me, that's the thing that no matter what else happens that day, that's the thing I'm going to do right.
Right.
No matter what else I do, that is the one thing I'm going to do right. Whether it's having one caffeinated drink, that's the thing I'm going to be disciplined about. That's no matter what else, no matter how tired I am, no matter what happens in the day. If I get a headache from caffeine withdrawal, I don't care. No matter what happens, that's the one thing I'm going to be disciplined about until that becomes a habit.
Right.
Right. So I'm fixated on that as far as like being purposeful, but I'm not letting it consume every single thing that I'm doing. If I say, okay, today I'm going to be disciplined about reading 10 pages of a book or whatever, the moderation comes in when you start learning to balance things, right? Or for people that want to start going to the gym, I always tell people that come in, especially I see this a lot with guys who say they want to fight, right? Typically young guys come in, 19, 20 years old, Army guys, are all wound up, pumped up about life and everything. They come in and they say they want to be a fighter and stuff. I'm like, great. Take your time, ease into it, right? Ease into it. Come to 1 class a day. Come to 2 classes a week. Don't go crazy with it because your body's going to hurt. You're going to be sore. And whether you're getting into strength training or martial arts or running or whatever, right? Take your time. Exercise moderation with it, because what always happens with these fighter types is that they come in, they go balls to the wall 3 hours a day for 2 weeks, and then I never see them again. Right. Because they burn out. And they didn't build that over time. Right. They just wanted to jump up to the top of the mountain, and they didn't want to do the work. They didn't want to take the steps.
Yeah. I used to get a lot of people would hit me up. Some that I knew. Mostly people that I didn't know, people, aspiring artists or rappers, and they're like, hey, I want to do what you do. I want to be a rapper. What do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And, and some of these long paragraphs of what they had written down, and I think it's awesome, and I think it's great. But I find that a lot of people who are just hopping into it, I can tell that they see someone else, or they have an image in their mind about what it should be or what gets attention or what's popular, and then they just kind of mimic that, and so a lot of people end up sounding the same, and like, what do you think? I said, well, and time and time again, I said, my suggestion to you is that no one can do you better than you can.
Sure.
So really start as close to home as possible, and whatever you do, you flip burgers and make money like that. Rap about flipping burgers.
Right.
You know what I mean? Rap about not being able to pay your cell phone bill. Like really the shit that you're really actually going through, because that's how you truly understand the process of this. Sure. That's how you truly understand that you have to change your patterns and your mindset. If you want to put yourself out there in a certain way, you have to change yourself in that way first. You can't necessarily just imitate and expect longevity from that, because you're kind of floating in the middle. Just like people wanting to come in and they all automatically want to be fighters. You don't know what it's like to get punched in the face. You know what I mean? Or something like that. But but it happens a lot with music. So I try to tell people, you have to slow down, realize who you are, where you are, why you're there, and where you want to go, and then start.
It's interesting hearing it like that. I think really exposes the ego in it.
Sure.
Right? So, like one of the biggest things we talk about martial arts all the time is you have to let go of your ego, because when you come in here and you don't know what you're doing, and you get punched in the face the first time, you train jiu-jitsu and you get submitted, you come in and you train with somebody who's 50 pounds lighter than you, and they just fucking choke you out and armbar you and hurt you, or you come in and you look at a small guy that's like all unassuming and shit, and he just boxes you the fuck up on your first night of training. That's a shot in the ego, man.
Sure.
And so, and I'll float this out there and see if it makes sense, but the way I understand it as far as the, kind of being a rapper is these guys, they come out and they imitate guys who are good, and they probably have people somewhere in their corner like, oh yeah, man, this shit's dope. So they're pumping up their ego and stuff. And then they go to somebody who has a longevity mindset, and you can break it down for them and say, you're full of shit. This is just like everybody else. That's a shot to the ego. Or guys that, like you said, if you're flipping burgers and that's how you're making money and shit, that's not, like, a lot of people are like, oh man, this is a great job, this is awesome. It's not glamorous. Everybody wants to, typically what you hear is guys rapping about selling drugs and getting women and getting money and all this stuff. And I mean, I've heard, I'm not super deep into the scene and stuff, but I've heard some of the local guys rap about that stuff. I'm like, man, I know you. Like, I know that's not what you're doing. What are you, what are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to fool? Like your ego is so consumed you that you can't be honest.
And it's gonna, bro, it's gonna get in your way eventually. It might flow for a little bit, but eventually it's gonna get in your way. And and you say that to people, and they'll take, you know, they may take offense, and that's again the ego taking offense. You know, they probably don't understand that I went through the same shit myself. You know, I started honestly making music late in life, so I didn't have the chance to be like the most lyrical or the most, you know, I don't have the most albums, or I don't have the, so that's when I was telling myself, I'm like, the only thing I could do is just be the most honest, you know, and right where I'm at. And now that brings it back to the art of it. You know, people might get caught up in what they think is the artistry of it, but really that's the business of it. You know, the image and the money made and, you know, stuff like that. That's more so the business and what it's turned into, the market. And, you know, and that's, you know, and I definitely understand that. But if you really want to get in touch with the art of it, you got to get in touch with yourself.
Well, and I think at a certain point too, you kind of you redefine how much money is enough. Like how much of a businessman do you want to be?
Right.
Do you want to be enough to get a ton of exposure and to make a ton of money? You know, then you fully conform to the business side.
Sure.
Do you want to stay true to your guns and only do art? Right. Then you're gonna be on the poor side.
Right.
If you want to balance it somewhere in the middle, if you want to make enough money to make a living, but you know, say I want to make, you know, X amount of dollars a year, whatever, I have to sell this many albums, and this is how I'm going to be able to afford to do this for a living. Well, you got to play the game a little bit, but you don't want to sell yourself out so completely that you lose the art.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden that brings down the quantity of money that you need, right? You can still keep your quality up high, but also I think that kind of balancing act, right? I think that's the way you find more fulfillment in using your purpose to earn a living.
100%.
You know,
100%. You know, the ideal concept is to put it all into the art and allow that to, you know, you create a demand.
Right.
To create a demand instead of catering to demand.
Right.
So I mean, you do end up doing both. You do end up going back and forth, time and time again.
Right.
And that's just part of the process. But you know, this is why discipline is so important. It's honestly probably one of the key components of a solid foundation.
Right.
You know, we talk about vulnerability all the time, but I guarantee that discipline is probably real close to that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But that sort of discipline helps you stay on track. And even if you do go back and forth in your understanding of the situation or the needs for the moment, having that discipline keeps your mind on that main goal.
One of the things I jotted down was structured goals that feed off of one another.
Sure.
Right? So that's a way to develop discipline, you know. So if we take the morning routine as the example, right? So structuring your goal of waking up on time makes it so you can get to the gym. Getting to the gym on time makes you want to get up early to have that time. You know what I mean? So these kind of balance off of each other, you know. And we can take that same structuring goals, like, okay, I have to be a businessman a little bit because I do need to make this money, but that's going to feed my goal of being able to develop my art more. And then I can develop my art more because that's going to make it so I actually have something that people want to hear, people want to buy, you know, so they feed off of each other, and then it's just a constant back and forth. But staying disciplined enough to keep in mind your long-term goal and prioritize the long-term goal of you want to be happy and you want to do what you love. So you can't go too far one way or too far the other, you know, and constantly letting and understanding that sometimes we're gonna have to work harder in one area than the other, you know.
For sure. My personal routine, the mix of everything I do, essentially, you know, it's about having a balanced, you know, mind, body, outlook, perspective, and that work ethic, because essentially for me, that allows for the best foundation for me to write easily from, honestly from, and I want to, as an artist, I want to make the best art that I can make. All of those things allow me to get in that zone quicker. Right. You know what I mean? So when the time comes, like I don't have to spend all my time writing at all. I hardly ever write like rhymes or anything like that. I write like journaling or reflecting and stuff like that. But when it comes time, when I get that source of inspiration, I am already everything I need. Right. I'm already right where I need to be. Right. But you know, I also have been looking forward to touring or leaving and traveling and doing music that way. So like me getting up early, staying on this routine, I want to, even when I'm out of my element in the future, I still want to have this sort of discipline.
Right.
So I keep that balanced mind, body perspective, because I know me, I know my weaknesses, you know what I mean?
Sure, sure.
And that shit could easily go off the rails if I'm out just going city to city.
Right. But you have to, it's the honesty in that. And that's, so you mentioned vulnerability, right? Being honest with yourself is an act of expressing vulnerability.
Sure.
Because who do you not want to hear the opinion of most? You don't want to hear an honest opinion of yourself from yourself.
Right.
But that forces us that practicing vulnerability forces us to develop discipline, and we develop discipline the best when we're honest. And so all these things just constantly tie together and move back into each other. You know what I mean?
And and I don't know if you already brought this up before, but as far as these connecting goals, I think is next level. Is certainly next level goal setting, or just understanding of the process itself.
Right.
But at first it's tricky because you don't want to, and you might have mentioned this before, but you don't want to try and do too much at once.
Right. Which inevitably, as you experiment with trying to develop discipline and stuff, you do end up doing too much at once. Right. And you falter, and ultimately you fail, or you feel like you failed, right? And then you have to start understanding, okay, well, failure is part of the process. I have to recover from this. Then you have to be honest, or you have to be vulnerable, because you have to admit that you failed, and then that builds more discipline. Right. So again, the cycle just keeps going. Failure builds discipline. Sure. Honesty builds discipline. Vulnerability builds discipline. Goals build discipline. Success builds discipline. Right. All of these things they're interwoven, and they balance off of each other, and they interconnect in myriad ways. And when you sit down and you reflect on it, you can understand how every single thing you do in one way or another is ultimately going to loop back around to everything else. Right. Right. One of the something I saw a couple weeks ago, and I'd never seen it before. This pro fighter that I follow on Instagram, he was wearing a shirt that said "Freedom and Discipline," and I had never seen it. And then a buddy of mine sent me a video. Jocko, what's his last name? Willink, the Marine. He does a podcast. He does like a lot of motivational stuff. And one of the videos that he put out, there was this dude doing a workout. He had a shirt on that said "Freedom and Discipline." Like all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just see this, and so it didn't really make sense to me at first. I've been meditating on it a lot for the past couple of weeks, and finally, kind of driving in this morning, it clicked for me. And then listening to you talk about your morning routine and how that set you up for success, and one of the things you found is just kind of that you're happy where you are. Right, and you want to be further, and you have goals, and you have aspirations, and you want to tour, and you want to do all these things, right? But right now you're happy where you are. And no matter where you are, always you're happy.
I'm happy where I am. Yeah.
So that's that freedom. That's that sense of that basically infinite sense of happiness, that unconditional sense of happiness. But that was all developed from discipline. Right? So you see discipline at first, and you think you have to be structured, you have to be regimented, you have to be in a routine, and that seems very constricting. But once you start to do this, and you find how much happier you are, how much more fulfilled your life is, how much fuller every single one of your activities is, and because every single thing you do when you're disciplined has purpose. When you wake up early, it has purpose. When you commit to training, it has purpose. When you commit to taking care of your body, it has purpose. When you commit to reading, when you commit to writing, when you commit to developing a structured and disciplined lifestyle, it creates a fuller life. When you have that fuller life, you have that freedom, you have that unconditional happiness. Right. I'm going to give a synopsis of it. I don't remember it verbatim, but this anecdote of Mexican fishermen. Right, so basically the way the story goes, as I remember it, is this American businessman goes to a small village in Mexico, and this dude, he's down at the pier for whatever reason, and this guy pulls up in this little tiny fishing boat. He's got his fish for the day, and it's like noon, right? And he's got whatever he decided was his quota for the day, And the American guy asked him, he's like, man, you got a good amount of fish there. He's like, why are you quitting at noon? He goes, well, I like to fish, until I have what I want for the day, and then I come in, I sell at a market or whatever, and I go home and I spend time with my family and play with my kids and have quality time and stuff for the day. The guy's like, well, why don't you stay out longer and make more money? He's like, why would I want to do that? The businessman says, well, if you make more money, you can buy a bigger boat. So why do I want a bigger boat? He's like, then you can get more fish. You stay out longer, you get a bigger boat, you get more fish, you can make more money, so you can buy a bigger boat, then you can franchise, and you can have other people working for you, then you have more boats, and you can build a corporation, and basically extrapolates it up all the way to this point where, you have this business that's running itself, and you're making tons of money, and the fisherman says, well, how long is that going to take? The American businessman, like 20, 25 years. Right? Okay, cool. He's like, what am I going to do then? He's like, once you do this, he goes, then you can just go out, fish a little bit in the morning, and then spend the rest of the day with your kids and stuff.
Right.
Why not just
That's exactly what he's
happy
doing
where
right
you
now.
are? Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what
and
he's
that resonated with me in such a sincere way, because I get to get up in the morning, and I get to come to the gym, and I get to spend time with people that I value. I get to spend time with people that have become friends to me. I get to work with people and help them enrich their lives, right? My bills are paid, right? I get to take a break during the day when I need to. I can kind of come and go as I please. I get to train when I want to. I have amazing training partners. I have access to incredible coaches. I get to travel and train a little bit. And I get to do this, So why do I ever need anything more? I'm completely happy with where I am right now.
Sure.
And if I get a little bit more down the road, if I make a little bit more money, if I have a little more exposure, if I get to travel a little bit more, that's awesome. But I'm going to take this happiness that I feel right now, and this is going to be what I have forever. And
Sure.
if I ever feel like I'm losing that, I can dial back.
Yeah.
I can mitigate it. I can find.
And not only that, but to come to a point where you are, and I don't want to say satisfied, but happy. Happy.
Yeah.
Now, if there are things in the near future that you want, that you think are necessary, you now have the tools, those same tools that help you get to that point of happiness. You have those tools that you can use toward that goal when the time comes. And I felt, and I feel just like that same sort of perspective and understanding has calmed me way down, because for so long, and I'm sure we've talked about it a bunch of times, like, well, people say, hey, you're not going to blow up here. People aren't going to hear your music here. You got to go someplace else. And I've even fallen into that before.
Sure.
And until I understood, I'm like, you know what? Like, for me to make the best music I can, the best art I can, or the best way, like, I really can do it anywhere. If people don't hear it, people don't hear it, but it exists. And the fact that it exists helps me to continue, that same sort of process.
Well, happiness isn't a place.
Right.
It's a state of mind, and that's cliche shit, but you develop that disciplined mindset. We talked a few weeks ago about gratitude and stuff, and I found myself kind of slipping in some of my habits that had gotten me to this point of happiness. And since then, I've really done a lot of self-evaluation, and I've started up some of my more disciplined habits and stuff, and started restructuring my life in a more disciplined way. And I'm finding myself calming back down again. And if you don't have the discipline, if you don't have these structured habits, and if you don't have the presence of mind and the ability to carry this other places with you, when you get to where you think you want to be, and all these habits and all this discipline goes out the window, you're going to find yourself unhappy again. Right? Being able to carry this discipline with you wherever you go is freeing.
I was writing something yesterday, I think it was even, early in the morning, and I said, show me your work ethic, and I know where you're going to be tomorrow. But if you show me composure, I know where you're going to be in 10 years, something like that. It is that sort of the lack of impulse. I don't want to say the lack of urgency, but the lack of impulse, in making moves that aren't good for that might seem like they're good for right now, but that aren't good for our longevity.
Understanding how to interpret impulse or disconnect the emotional aspect from it. You know, understand, okay, well, this might suck right now.
Right.
I might not be happy with this exact decision, but I know that long term this is the right thing to do.
Yes.
And taking away the impulsiveness of it and being able to stay disciplined and cultivate long term success and you know that freedom that comes with it.
Shit. You know, I think knowing when to stay composed or when to act impulsively, because it does have its. Sometimes you got to move now. But knowing when to stay composed and knowing when to act impulsively in a situation is all about understanding what you need and want from that situation before it ever becomes a situation. And you know, when I think just that movement is just everything becomes so much more fluid with discipline. Everything becomes fluid. You are who you are. You know what you need to be successful or to be happy. So no matter what these roadblocks, no matter the roadblocks that come in your way, like they're not, you know, sideswipe or utilize them for your benefit or whatever you got to do. Whatever you got to do.
Exactly. Nothing's an obstacle anymore.
Nothing.
It's an event.
Yes.
And regardless of the nature of the event, that's all it is.
I like that.
You keep moving forward, you know.
It's a cool event. Yeah, I like that quote.
Cool. Figure all the quotes I get from you and all the inspiration I get from you, I figure I might as well get one written down.
Yeah, it's not an obstacle, it's an event. No, it is. You know, and it feels good. This is probably, you know, I've had, you know, good productive patterns before, but this New Year's Eve, today, I am not doing a single thing different. I don't need to do a single thing different. I woke up at the same time. I didn't run this morning because it's going to be a long ass day.
Sure.
But, you know, I went outside.
I got you back for it in class, so you're good on missing that run.
Appreciate that too. But, you know, appreciated the view, you know, off the back balcony and, you know, wrote for a little bit, you know, wrote about discipline for a little while. You know, and then got down here. And, you know, the rest of my day will carry on as such. But there's nothing that I needed to start today. There's nothing I need to start tomorrow. These patterns I have started months ago. Because I wanted to be here by the time 2020 hit. I already wanted to be doing it. And I think that is, I don't know. I feel like that's a blessing even to come to that sort of mindset months ago. You know, and a lot of people are saying, actually I haven't seen a lot of New Year, New Me things, but you know, a lot of people use this as an excuse to get started, and that's good. I mean, we all need that conviction to get started, but is it a day? Is it our understanding of a rotation around the sun? Is that gonna hold our conviction when that snow starts hitting tomorrow and the day after? And it's the second or the third now, and you know where do your convictions really lie? Because I think that's the secret to discipline, and discipline unlocks everything.
Where's your mind going to be on February 1st? You know, not where is it right now? Where are you going to be, and what's going to get you there? You know, what's gonna keep this mindset going? Because motivation wanes, man. We talk about it all the time. Motivation is finite. Discipline is forever. You know, so taking the time, building small habits, and I say this to people a lot. Like if you need a date on a calendar to get started, then you don't want it bad enough. You know, and it sounds rough. It sounds a little scathing. It sounds like I'm not being encouraging and stuff. But the fact is, it doesn't matter when you actually start. There's something you can do right now to start building a habit that is going to help you accomplish that goal.
And I think it's inspiring. I think that is motivating. That you don't have to wait. Nothing else has to be anything else. Just right now. All you have is right now to start making those steps. I think that's inspiring as hell.
I'm glad you interpreted that. So that means that maybe somebody else does too.
Yeah, because it's easy to be like, well, don't tell me how to do what I do.
Right.
You know, so that's not what we're saying. But there's definitely a freedom in that. That right now today is day one.
Right.
You know, at whatever time it is, today's day one to start making those changes.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, I appreciate the shout out.
Hey,
But
gotcha.
that really is the cornerstone of the day one mindset is that, and even if you say, okay, well, this class that I want to take starts on Monday, it's Tuesday the week before right now. So I have, 7 days until I can take that. I literally can't do anything between now and then.
Right.
But put yourself in that position. Okay, on the first day of class, this is what this is going to feel like. Or if you decide, I'm going to go to the gym. This is what I think I can expect. Or how do I prepare myself for this physically? How do I, what should I eat that morning? Start planning that day. Start right now. Start putting yourself in that mindset.
Sure.
Start thinking ahead.
Visualize.
Start planning. Yes.
Visualize.
So instead of just saying, okay, well, I'm going to wait for this to happen, put yourself there. Go through the motions already.
Right.
Mentally prepare yourself, physically prepare yourself, habitually prepare yourself. Find some way to start right this second, even if it's 10 o'clock at night. Do something to calm yourself down, mentally prepare for that, get yourself to sleep. Focus on getting good sleep. That's something we all undervalue. And you can do that anytime. You can start that whenever.
Right.
Because that goal, if you set the goal of getting better sleep and better rest, and being more prepared, right, all of these things feed into the other goal, right? So we're setting goals that feed off of one another.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Start it now.
I know.
Don't wait until the new year. Start it right now. So don't wait the next 12 hours. Get moving right now. Yeah.
Well, Dan, what you think?
I like it, man. I like
Okay.
it.
All right.
Yeah, Quince, brother. Thank you.
Nah, thank you.
Sitting down for the conversation.
Appreciate you.
Everybody who joined in, thank you so much. You guys, please be safe tonight. Enjoy the time with the friends. Find a way, some crazy way to stay a little bit disciplined so you can wake up tomorrow morning and feel like doing something with yourself.
There you go. There you go.
Yep.
Happy New Year, guys. Thanks for joining.
See you guys next week.